Welcome to the first episode of the Women of Asics, a limited podcast series by HURS. And for our first episode, we're here with Cecilie. It's so nice to see you.
Good to see you too, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're in your store in Copenhagen.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about this space.
So for me, the store is in this beautiful courtyard where you can see some of the towers of Copenhagen and the light of the city. It's really an extension of our atelier and how we work. It has some of my favorite art pieces on the wall. It has collection pieces that are part of the current collection. There's also have archive pieces. It has our collaboration. It's really a combination of things. The girls that works in the store also works in the team in the studio as well, so everybody knows what we are about and what we're passionate about. I hope it's a place that is welcoming, that people just want to come and explore and take in and be part of the family and what we are about.
Yeah. What was it like, because it's your first store, to think about, you know, the universe of the brand and translate it into a physical space?
I think first off, it's been a dream for a long time to add this to the universe. We used to do quite a few private appointments, and when people were visiting Copenhagen, they would come to Italy and we were doing it there, and they kind of came in. And I thought it was a beautiful way for us in the creative process to also know who's the woman who wear it and how does she sees it. So I wanted to keep that vibe of it, but also being able to have it in the center of the city where it was easier to access. And yeah.
Makes sense. And the atelier is also in Copenhagen.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think it's quite recent, right?
Yeah.
Or you moved?
So we moved Italy like 3 years ago, and then the store opened exactly like a year ago in June. So it's kind of, it's roughly a year ago. So.
Yeah.
So it's a new chapter, but it feels like a very natural extension of who we are and how we do things.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've also been to the showroom in Paris.
Yes.
And similar to your collections, actually, there's always a very coherent feeling between, even though they're in different cities and the spaces are different, there's this red thread.
Yeah. I think it's once a space where people can like go and explore, and you have the flowers coming out of the wall, and you have like vases by some of my friends, and like so it's a space where you can also invite different female artists in, different takes on creativity into the space as well. It transformed for whether it's 3 days of design or Copenhagen Fashion Week, and like we've had events here, and like it's about not just the boutique but a universe and an extension of the brand.
Yeah, for sure. And I think people more and more also love kind of peeling back those layers of the onion, like, okay, I love this dress, but then what kind of artist, and really that world building, as you said.
We got to do a really cute event for Fashion Week last when we just opened with Asics, which was actually like an upcycle workshop where people could embroider their shoes and stuff. And it was so, like, people couldn't nearly stop, and all the women together and with the team seeing how we worked. It was very sweet. So it's amazing to have a place where we can do things like that.
For sure. Yeah. And also to have it all, you know, in a city like Copenhagen, which you're from.
Exactly.
And then having everything so closely knit.
No, that was important also now showing in Paris to still know, this is where we're from. A lot of the philosophies of how we create is really on that. Like my inspiration is still seeing girls in the streets jumping on their bike in their dresses, or like how you put it together and wear it. So we want to be part of that energy too.
Yeah. That's nice. I want to go back a little bit, because I read you used to crochet with your grandmother.
Yes.
And I would love to know what you would make together, but also how, you know, that experience has kind of shaped your work today.
I think like me and my grandmother would create many things together, but it was a very special moment for me. It would be what I would do after school, or come to hers and we will crochet or embroider or together. And it was very calm, and it was very special kind of compared to, like, I think for me it's always been about creating stuff with the hand, but there was a calmness with her, and like these things, seeing things coming to life, but also following what she has made since you were there last. And as I got more and more into fashion, she would also help me make some of those things I've seen in magazines that I really wanted to wear but didn't know how to make. And so I think that really stayed with me and was like, how I felt in love with it first, but also how I found a a piece or like a mindfulness in creating. That's been important for me today as well.
Yeah, because it's very meditative.
Exactly.
It's like a pattern, right? Yeah, I love that. And I mean, later on in your career, you know, you trained under Galliano, you worked with Erdem in London.
Yeah.
And then at one point, you decided to move back to Copenhagen.
Yes.
And go out on your own. What was that decision like at that moment to make that decision to launch your own brand?
I think it was two phases to it. I think when I studied, I knew it was always what I wanted to do, but I also wanted to learn from some of the best and understand what it is more than just the creativity. And I'm totally grateful for what I got to learn, and like the craftsmanship and the romance of especially also the studio of Galliano. Like, it's so different to a Scandinavian approach to things. So like, for sure, having all of that inspiration, a way of doing with you, but also knowing that I wanted to do it closer to home and at a different pace, and wanting to have that time to also find what my voice was within it, which I think Copenhagen Fashion Week was also a very important way for me to do that, and choose locations and finding like your way of expressing yourself, not just in clothes but also in universe and atmosphere. So I think that was a big part of it. It also felt scary, like in terms of like London and Paris has such a big focus on either the history of fashion or on talent. So it was like, okay, how we do it here? But I think Copenhagen and Denmark in general, like design and craftsmanship and the history of that, the timelessness of that, like there was values in that I wanted to explore within my creativity.
Yeah, and I think it kind of served you as well, actually, to be outside of those cities. And, you know, to me, you're very much a person who beats to her own drum anyway.
Exactly.
So it I feel like it kind of works.
Right now, it's like, it really feels like the perfect base and balance of two, and like having the boutique here in Copenhagen and the team, and get to design and develop what we do, but also take it out in the world, whether it's a show in Paris or a pop-up in Japan, or it really lives internationally, but it also allows me to create in a way that's very dear to me.
Yeah, it's like that zoom in, zoom out. And
exactly.
When you started, because, you know, of course you worked for other designers who had big visions of their own.
Yeah.
And I think what's really interesting is, you know, you've really built this universe. It's not about newness for newness sake. You're really building one collection on the next, one, you know, collaboration on the next. And it's really, you're building that world. What was your starting point? Because I can imagine when you started, you maybe didn't have that vision yet, or at least you didn't know what it was going to be 10 years down the line.
I think that's what has been definitely, like with the 10 years anniversary last year, really interesting, that some of these idea of, I do think my universe is Scandinavian, and in my world, like minimalistic mixed with some French romance and some edginess of London. Like that was like the creative vision, but there was this timeless approach of like, I wanted to create a collection where like eventually you would wear a skirt from one season with a top from another, and that was maybe easy not to say, but it's been really amazing and rewarding to see that that's also the case. And when you meet the women who wear it, or the customers, and see how they actually buy, and especially with the boutique and with our own online, like they are not hung up on a season. They buy what they're passionate about, or what they love, and how they want to put it together. And for me, there's a security or a comfort in instead of saying every season, oh, now we do something new. You build on what you have, and you're stubborn about your aesthetic, but you also push yourself and see like, how can you stretch it, or like how can it both be a voluminous silhouette or a fitted silhouette, or how can you create comfort within these things as well. And
For sure. And for me personally, I wouldn't say I'm a very girly girl. And I think if you've never worn the brand before, you might look at it as like, okay, that's a very girly dress. But actually my experience wearing one of your pieces, it doesn't feel like you're wearing a girly dress at all.
No.
And I mean, of course, it's maybe the Danish background and it having to be, beautiful, but also practical to a certain extent. But how do you also think about how people wear it, or do you ever think about that?
I think, of course, also with Asics and with the partnership, it's a big part of telling that story, that you should just put your trainers on and wear it with the dress, and like the ease of that. I think for me, the dresses are for every day, and it's for you to feel comfortable in them and express yourself, but also like they shouldn't stop you from doing what you're doing. Like my son goes to the forest kindergarten, which is a thing you do in Denmark. But his teachers every morning, one of his teachers every morning is there in a dress and in her Asics, and she's going to the forest with like 20 kids, and like she don't care. She's just like, I feel great in this, and I love it, and it's been amazing to see these different women who's just really taking it in and making it part of their life and their everyday, not just a certain occasion or something. And I think that's the dream of how to wear it and live in it.
100%. Yeah, you have to be able to live your life in it, for sure. I'd love to go a little bit more into the creative process, because I know there's so much depth to the techniques, how you develop these. Like, they're not just a beautiful garment. There's so much thinking behind it, because the studio develops all the fabrics in-house, right?
Yeah, so for me, textiles has always been a very important part of the process, and we start with sketching them out. We work with really incredible mills in Italy and Switzerland, whether it's with the archives or with new ideas we have, and kind of really starts from the sketch of the swatches to kind of develop a new look of a flower or a new hand feel. And therefore the creative process also really have its phases, because first those 2D drawings goes out, then they come back as 3D swatches and rolls, and then we move on to the mannequins and drape it, and then eventually onto the body to make sure that it also feels comfortable. So there is like a very a phase in every creative process that really kind of comes after another and informs each other.
Yeah, because I guess the fabric is 2D, sometimes a little 3D as well.
Exactly.
But it's already kind of an artwork in itself. And then you have to create almost like a sculpture out of it, really.
Exactly. And it's also why they're so dear to me. So I keep pretty much every fabric we've done and every scrap, so that we can bring them back in made-to-order pieces or use them for references when we're doing things. So they inform each other as well. We have a couple of dresses that has like fabric from like 10 different seasons in them. And it's like you get a diary about when you buy a dress like that.
100%. And they can all be interchanged in a way as well, because there's always this red thread of because you make them yourself as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe this is a cringy question to ask, I don't know. But flowers are so central to your work. Where does that obsession with flowers come from?
I think it's definitely grown bigger with the brand, and it's just like it used to be just the things I would doodle or I will collect or pick up or be like, I don't know if it's an accidental inspiration, but now it really feels like such an engraved part of the brand, and also a deeper curiosity about it. I also now have we have a summer house with my own garden, and I'm starting to grow the flowers and collecting vintage books about flowers. So it's like it all kind of more and more even interlinked. And I think the flower as an icon for us has been amazing to also see how, again, with the collaborations, you add your DNA, you transform something maybe very masculine into something very feminine, but it can be in those small details and small trinkets that it's so readable that it's yours.
For sure. Yeah. I love that. You've built a team over the years, of course, and some of them Danish, but also some of them have worked at all these amazing luxury brands globally. And I was talking to the team off camera before, and I asked them what it was like to work for you. Yeah. And they were saying how calm it is, there's space for personal life, it's a really nice, relaxed environment to work with, which I think is not something I hear from most people working for big luxury houses. How have you created that company culture, and also how do you think it affects the creative process, having that, more relaxed, open environment?
I think a lot of it comes down to also that I think for me the boundary between private life and creative life, it's like completely blurred. Everything is is one. So it is, the studio is extended family for me. I like my boyfriend knows the name of everybody. My son comes in and hangs out with the girls and are part of it as well. It's really interlinked. But also, I think I've always known that I couldn't do this on my own. I need other talented people, and I need people around me to inspire me and push me. And I really feel like that's the most inspiring part of this journey, is how I'm not just creating this on my own, but together with other amazing women especially. And like, I think it's incredible, and like these different talents from all over the world who is part of who we are today.
And I also love, you know, sometimes you see a group of women all dressed in Cecilie Bahnsen, and it's probably the Cecilie Bahnsen team, which is also, it's a real embodiment of what the brand is.
Yes,
and everyone looks so different in every outfit as well. But I feel like, I mean, cult has a too negative connotation to it, but I do feel like, in terms of that, it feels like a family.
Yeah. But I think it's especially in the summertime, it does live in an extremely like incredible way. You would sit and have a morning coffee, and then someone would bike past you, and it's one of the girls with like a bow like fluffing away, and it's like, yeah, it's one of my biggest inspiration. Like when we added denim to the collection, it was because that was how everybody had their jeans on, but to be still able to wear the dresses in the summer. And I was like, of course, or in the winter, we need that kind of element, because you shouldn't just wear it for one season. It should be complete, and
it should kind of take you through all of life.
Exactly.
When you're in a collection or you're working on a project and you're stuck or something doesn't work, what do you do?
I think too, like sometimes you just keep going at the things that you love, whether it's the textile or the draping, till the pin drops. And then I think for me, nature is super important, whether it's being by the sea or plodding around with what I should make grow for the next season or something like that is super important for me. I think you never know when an idea, something is gonna fall into shape. You definitely need to have the right mind space for it.
Yeah. I mean, I can even imagine, you know, earlier we kind of talked about this relentless fashion calendar, which is, you know, I think it's great that there's so many moments to create as a fashion brand, but as someone who owns a brand, I can imagine it's also quite tough. Is that also those moments you kind of try to find some, I guess, balance, or at least a different pace? I think you definitely have to find your own pace in it and your own way of doing it. And I think it's in between that and like the ambition that I also have for the brand, and the energy, and how much I can see the stream still growing, and that I, again, together with the team, feel like it's so special and not just about me anymore. It's about like, how can we all grow with it, and what's the possibility within this creativity. And I think that's really also what drives me forward. And then I think you have to be critical in how you adhere to the pressure when you need to deliver something and do something. And I think we really focus on creating with purpose, and like discussing also as a team when there's something in the collection. What does this do? Or do we need it now? Is that idea okay to also save for next collection? And I think that's again where the timelessness comes in. You don't need to just push it out because it's now. It can also wait till it feels right. Like with some fabrics, we develop it like over a year and a half, and then that's when it makes sense that it fits in, and that creates like a sub kind of calendar to the faster one. That's important for me. Well, I guess it's also because you've built such a defined universe. Exactly. You also kind of allow the team to play within that, and then you see in what moment whatever they create fits, rather than, oh, we have to make a new collection, let's focus on filling this merchandising. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that gives you so much more freedom. Completely. Do you think being in Copenhagen also kind of helps you with that pace, but also about maybe having created this little corner of space for yourself? I think there's definitely a reflection that is great, like that when I'm like, you've also been to the studio, it's up under the sky, like you get time to reflect and take things in and work creatively like that, and then you get to
be in Paris, seeing the show come together and the excitement and the adrenaline of how that push you creatively and see things living and breathe, and also things kind of going out of your control, because it's those 7 minutes where everything's transformed and there's something magical in that. Or like you travel to Japan because you are doing a pop-up, but you also get to research, and like I think there's constant like paces in between, and I like to be in this intersection of both. It works, and then I think adding my son to this as well, he's definitely created a new type of balance and a new celebration of also what creativity is when you don't look at it with adult size, but when it's just celebrating that like immediately kind of like drive for what creativity is, or unspoiledness of editing it and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't think about creativity like this often enough, but I think people always think, oh, if you're a creative person, there's this constant stream of creativity coming out of you. But I would almost view it more as, you know, being an athlete. There's moments where you can have this crazy output and you're, you know, high pace, high energy, but then also you need moments of stillness to kind of, as you said, it needs to be on these kind of two trajectories at the same time. Yeah, that's so interesting. And I love how, I think the intention of it all is so important, where you think, okay, what are we adding? Why are we adding it? Or why are we doing a show? Or why are we doing this collaboration?
And then I think, like also, I think the creative dialogue, now we talked about the different artists as in the space, in the boutique, but also with the last show, it was a dance performance, and we worked with Myrto, who's one of the girls who's walked our show before, but also is a dancer, and like this creative dialogue between disciplines and between women that inspires you, and how that also inform your creativity or your way of expressing yourself. I think that is where it's also rewarding for me, and you make sense of pushing yourself and involving the brand in that way as well.
Yeah. And I think, again, because you've created such a definitive idea of what your brand is and what your output is, it's also so much easier to let other people be part of that, because there's something to work from. And I mean, you know, you've been a long-standing collaborator of Asics.
Yes.
Is this your 7th project?
Yeah, when you said it, I was like, wow, yes, it is.
I know. I think, again, with collaborations, it's not, you don't see that often anymore, that there's such longevity to a partnership. What first attracted you to, you know, this Japanese activewear brand?
I think I think it's the two different things. I think it was the craftsmanship and the technology and the comfort of Asics. It would be what I wore with my dresses, which then take me to the other one, which was like, we needed a partner to tell the story of how to live in the dresses and the universe. Like, you come to the first show, you knew everything was styled with flats, but people kept talking about the collection as only occasion wear. And I was like, it's not just occasion wear, it's also easy, and it's super comfortable, and a dress feels like a cloud, and you can move in it, and there's comfort. And I was like, oh, that's all the things Asics are also talking about. So I feel like our value set really aligned. And then I was so amazed when we then started working on the first shoe with the team in Amsterdam, and seeing all these women behind the scene who worked on the shoes, and like who didn't get scared of my ideas and like the things I wanted to try. And I think still looking at the first Mary Jane we did with them, it's incredible that we could take the tongue out, that we could create a shoe that had the same lightness as the dresses, where you could see the craftsmanship and the lines and the flaws and all of that in one product. It became very also enlightening for me about like how you can look at shoes as an object and a way of translating as much DNA into that, not just as a dress or full silhouette, but as one object who can say like so much.
Yeah, because there might also be the person who just wants to wear jeans and a white t-shirt with your shoes, and then that still has to kind of encapsulate your whole brand.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, as you talked about that first shoe, taking the tongue out, like you've done some very unexpected things with Asics, and I'm sure you pushed each other both equally. How do you find the balance between, you know, where your world starts and ends and where their world starts and ends?
I think within the collaboration now it's so interlinked with each other, which I love. Like I love that like it can be decorative, like the red shoes we did with all the 3D flowers on, but it still needs to like go past a quality control and make sure you can wear it and it lasts and it's functional and it's comfortable. And I like that none of the things compromise on each other. Like that, like you learn from each other's craftsmanship and nerdiness, and you make something really beautiful and functional together. I also think as brands we've grown incredibly together as well, which I think is the beauty of the collaboration, how it really has informed each other and feels like a natural extension of what we do.
For sure. Yeah, I would say nerdiness was also something that came to mind for me, about something you share, like really getting into the details and making sure it's creatively nerdy, like you're taking yourself as far as you can go, but also nerdiness from a consumer perspective where it's like, okay, really needs to serve whoever's wearing this thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this one that we're wearing right now is your 7th project.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about this one, because you've done so many now. How do you, I mean, let's talk about this shoe specifically.
Yeah.
Then also every shoe has to say something different. Like how do you evolve the idea of what the shoe can be?
So I think for this one, I think the interesting first starting point was that the sole has 10 years anniversary when we did it as well, which I thought was super, like telling that same story of like the history of a product. But then the other thing was also like again working with something that like really like the comfort of this, that you can just slip it on and nearly feels like a sock, or like it's so easy. So how minimal, like how much could you strip back the details? How much could it just be about that one floral cutout? And like I think as much as this looks like maybe one of the simplest things we've done together, it's probably been the most complicated to achieve that ease of just putting it on. And I think I really love, like again also the team has been wearing it a little bit before it's out, but how different people wear it. Like when you have like a pink sock, then suddenly you have the pink flower coming out, and you can kind of like, again, like mold it to be part of your look and how you express yourself.
For sure. And then with a shoe like this, like what's the starting point? Because it's like, okay, we're going to do another shoe. Does Asics come to you with like, we want to work on this silhouette, or do you have a choice? And then how do you go from there? Because I wonder if the process, I can imagine the process is very different designing, you know, a dress or designing a shoe.
So there's always like a starting point, like of like they have certain of the soles that they want to work on, and then we get full creativity of what the upper of the shoe is, and really transforming that. So you're always starting from that, or starting from the archive and having something that you kind of revisit in your creativity. And then it's a long process, so it's like a good year and a half to develop a shoe. So like we go through 3 protos before it's finished, and I think again, like also you might have started out that it was one color, and then as it develops it changes a bit, because we start actually the shoe so long before we design the collection that it sits with. But I also love that with Asics, again, that it's not like we create this and then it has to land that day in store. It has to land when the product is finished and good enough. And I think that for me is also quite exciting way of working. And I think that's how we've also been able to push the creativity with it, because if it needs that one more tweak to be perfect, it gets that one more tweak to be perfect.
It's not, I mean, we live in a world that's so rushed and it's so, you have to be on certain timelines. So it's actually very refreshing to hear, I mean, from you on a personal level for your own brand to take time for things, but that there's also, you know, such a big activewear brand that still does that as well. When from the outside as a consumer, you don't know.
No.
You know, you don't see what happens behind
and
the
I think
scenes.
it's just natural, which I also saying like that's how it's been every time. Like that one isn't cracked completely. We need to go back one more time till it lives up to what it needs to do. And
And has working with Asics changed how you think about your own collections? Like, you know, I think you've always thought about putting something comfortable with your dresses, but I wonder if it's pushed you in any other way.
I think back to the flower a little bit we talked about before. I think definitely looking even more at the flowers in a, what do you call it, in a like in a wear that's now part of our universe, or part of my DNA, where maybe before it was just, oh, I'm into this, it's beautiful, it feels right. Like I think I've become more aware of my own codes within the brand by working together in this way as well, and how little it takes, and what are those tweaks, and how can those codes also be refined within my own universe. And then I think also shoes as a category for us, not just with Asics, but also our own, has become a thing, has become a way of me creating again, like these objects or these things where there's space for so many trinkets and love and explorations. I love that you might just see one thing when you first fall in love with it, but when you come up closer, then there's something else. And it really feels like it's for the woman to her also enjoy and take in some of these things. Like if it's a whole soul might be floral printed, but it's only her who knows it, who's wearing it. And I like these kind of things though.
Yeah, like secret hidden details.
Exactly, yeah.
But I guess also especially in a collaboration or partnership like this one, you really have to boil down the essence of your brand. Like if there's 3 things, what are those things? What for you, because I mean, you've worked on so many different products, what for you makes a collaboration a good one?
So I think like I've definitely like a joint value set of how to create and how to make. Also something that surprises people. I think now people take Asics for granted, and we do that. But I think when we did it first, it was like, okay, you're doing this and you're turning it this much on your hair. Like now it's a natural part of the universe. But I think that kind of element of surprise or daring to add something to the universe is a bit out of space, but pushes you. I think we also very much look at it in categories. How do you build that full look? What is it we are missing to have the complete Cecilie Bahnsen universe or way of expressing like the creativity?
Yeah, I like that. And I think, as you said, like a shared value system is so important. But then also sometimes there's collaborations where there's 2 brands that sit too closely together and you're almost like, what are you giving each other? And I think that's been very interesting about seeing this particular collaboration. It's something I wouldn't have put together before it existed. And that's that element of you want people to be like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that yet, which is exciting. And I mean that you've done 7 projects is insane. To wrap things up, you know, we've talked a little bit about pace, about this collaboration, of course, about your brand. And I'd love to take it more to today and ask what you're curious about right now. Could be in your work, in your free time.
So I think, I think especially with the anniversaries, like last year was such a year of reflection and everything we created. I think what I'm excited about is this energy that I still have and the team has for what there's still out there to explore and to develop. And I think the creativity within that and the joy of that and creating a space where like we see how far this dream can go, but it's an enjoyable journey to keep being on together is super important for me. So I think that's like top of mind. And then like family life, there's a little man who's starting school, which is super big, and what will that mean for him, and how do you balance these things with the creativity and the brand at the same time?
Of course. And I mean, I think you've done such a good job, because it doesn't feel like 10 years, but it also feels like 30 years.
Exactly.
I'm sure for you especially. But
it goes fast and slow, right? And I guess that's the beauty of it as well.
Yeah, and you know, there's the highest highs and the lowest lows in anyone who owns any type of company, I think. But especially, you know, the fashion industry, since you started really a decade ago, is so volatile, and there's so much happening, and you know, you're still independently owned, which is no small feat. Is that really important to you as well, to kind of have that ownership?
I think it's important to have a unique voice and point of view, and I think a female-driven creativity, and I think that's why it's been very natural to date the different things we've done. Like, I think I could not become the brand I was not showing in Copenhagen Fashion Week, but I also think, and finding my voice there in my own tempo, but also Paris today is such a big informer of where I see the brand, where I see it going, where I see the craftsmanship of what we're creating. And I think we always work with this title of everyday couture, but it is that kind of in between that excites me, and where I think there is a really duality to what we can do and what is possible. Yeah,
for sure. And you know, I think at least for me, you keep on surprising us with things where it all fits very tightly into this universe, but it's always something new or unexpected, which is not easy to do.
No.
So congratulations
Thank you very
on
much.
that. And last question, what are you working on tomorrow?
Tomorrow we'll be working on the pre-spring collection, which is exciting.
What stage are you in right now?
We're in the states of getting all the fabrics in, so we're moving on to like the stand and the draping. So we have 4-hour fitting tomorrow that I'm really excited about. It's always my favorite when it starts coming together and you see the things moves and layers up, and you make sense of everything that's today spinning around in here.
It comes alive, I can imagine.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And excited to keep wearing these.
Yes, thank you, Bunny. Thank you very much.